And welcome to another exciting installment of the Terrorisk podcast.
I'm excited,
I'm with Dimitri.
and I'm excited.
We were just talking about, actually, I started watching this new show that's actually on YouTube, Netflix now. And I don't think it was originally made by Netflix. It was like a Cinemax show.
Ooh.
It's called Warrior.
Okay.
It's a show about this kung fu guy from China who ends up in like San Francisco around like super early, like pre-World War One 1900s America.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, so this guy's like a kung fu guy, comes into San Francisco. They're doing like it's all about like Chinese diaspora back in that time in the West Coast. And he goes around, he picks fights with like Irish labor gangs and shit like that. Yeah, it's
That's wild.
So it's super violent. It's like it's about as violent as like Spartacus or whatever that show's called, Sparta. I don't know, but I do know that certain things about the show fucking annoy me. Like there was this one scene. This is when I kept watching it, but I immediately lost respect for the show when there was a scene like. They finally showed the Chinese guys talking, and they're speaking in Chinese, and they do this weird like 360 camera pan around the guy,
Like the Matrix.
and when they go like first he's talking in Chinese, they flip it around to like, and then he's talking in English to make it seem like it's like, oh, they're actually speaking Chinese, but for the viewer's sake,
Right.
they're gonna translate, and they all speak like great English, all the actors.
Right.
So like it worked, and I was like, I still lost respect for it,
Why?
because it's like it's cheap, like you really can't just fucking read subtitles and let them speak Chinese, like.
I mean, I can, but
No, I mean, it was a rhetorical question. I mean, like,
yeah,
like I was like, really, but
gotta dumb it down for the masses.
and it got even further convoluted because the main character, like one of his traits is the fact that he knows how to speak English. Like he's a one Chinese immigrant in San Francisco that actually knows how to speak fucking English and communicate with the quote unquote ducks, the white people.
I see.
So so the fact that they were doing that, and on top of that adding that as a narrative thing, it kind of like made it seem convoluted at times. Like I don't know if he's actually speaking English in the scene or if he's just like doing that fake, instant translation mod English, like
Right.
because it's the same thing. Also, it's really funny because like when one of the characters who the character doesn't speak English, but when they're speaking their instant translation English, it's like they speak perfectly fluent English. But then when a white person goes up and talks to that character, they switch to like Chinese English. Like
Okay, so this is just a how do I represent different like languages in an intelligible way for the viewer.
exactly. So when you're watching like two Chinese gangsters on the show like argue, really they're saying like but on the show it's like, you motherfucker, how about I cut your fucking tongue? I'm like, yeah, all right. Like
Interesting.
yeah. So I was like, I don't know. I kind of lost respect for that. I didn't really like that, but I understood why they did it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we should just have like truly multicultural shows where people just speak the actual language the whole time.
Yeah, but what's wrong with reading subtitles? Like,
Oh, I read them.
yeah, I just don't think I don't think there's anything wrong with reading subtitles. Another movie that I saw recently that surprisingly sucked balls was Valerian.
Oh, everyone knows that sucked balls.
What?
I thought that was like the consensus that it sucked
I didn't know
balls.
that it sucked balls. I knew about the comics.
Everyone was very disappointed.
I knew the comic series. I knew about that, and I know like how legendary that was. If
Yeah.
anything, a lot of people would arguably claim that it, like Star Wars ripped off of Valerian in a lot of ways.
No, people were so hyped for that movie, and it delivered so bad. Like,
It sucked balls. And you know what? When
Yeah.
I was watching it, I didn't understand why it fucking sucked. Because like there was some cool ideas in the movie. Everything was like,
yeah, the source material is fantastic.
yeah, the source material was amazing. There were some cool concepts playing out. I think it was just the lead actor was such dog shit. Like he was so bad at it. He just didn't. He was not a good Valerian. Like.
I'd have to see it. Like ever since everyone was like, "This sucks," I just didn't check it out at all.
Yeah. I mean,
But it was like widely panned, from what I know.
yeah, which is actually interesting because like I understand people care about the source material about as much as they care about say like fucking Dune or something.
Yeah, well, Dune actually came out well, which everyone I think is very happy for. I'm very happy for it.
Yeah, a lot of people had some valid criticism against Dune.
Of course.
I'm not a big Dune fan, but one thing that I didn't consider is when somebody was like, "Oh, I hate the costumes." Because, really, they're supposed to be like gaudy, feudal era kind of like really colorful, flamboyant type shit, not like this fucking
gritty
desert cyber goth thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the classic conundrum. When you read the book, you have your own like vision for what you think it would look like, and then you watch the movie and it doesn't look like that, and you're like,
Well, some movies actually did it really good. I mean,
for sure.
People could hate on it all they want, but I don't care. I think Harry Potter was a brilliant adaptation. I don't think it was a great movie and necessarily the best book, but I read the books and I saw the movies, and I thought the movies did an uncannily good job at like portraying the book stuff.
I don't know. I didn't like the movies that much personally. I like the books a lot more.
Yeah, the books were good. I mean, it's actually
fine.
It's actually really funny when people hate on the books because first of all, it's like, all right, I'm pretty sure a lot of these people never read it because like, I mean, like you may not like as a person who read the books, you may not even agree with the author, but you can't admit they're not decent reads, like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do think these days, most people just like Harry Potter because of the author and not because of the books.
The books are great.
Yeah.
The books are fucking good, especially like...
No, actually, this okay, if you read them right now, like as an adult, like so many plot holes. Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because, like, they got time travel. Like, they got this. It's like you could have done so much with all those aspects, and they just didn't.
Well, one thing they had going for them was the fact that it was based on magic.
Yeah, but the mechanics of magic are never explained. So, like, it's not obvious what the limits are. So, like, when they don't do something, you're like, well, why don't they do that? And they just don't, because they don't.
Well, it's actually funny when you talk about the mechanics of magic. And, like, because usually, like, any series that goes out of their way... I didn't realize this until, like, I looked back, like, after, like, reflecting and contemplating, like, spiritual shit. I think about like explaining the mechanics of magic, even within the context of like a fictional world. Like usually the explanation, like it could be like very profound, yet when like most people see it or read it, they're like, that's stupid, because they'll say, oh, magic is like rooted in your feelings. Magic is rooted in your emotions, in the depths of your emotions. It comes from your emotions.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of that.
Yeah, most people, like a lot of people they'll get pissed off at that kind of description. Like, what the fuck is that? Because it doesn't satisfy like a certain part of your brain, that wants to see like some kind of logical material basis for something,
Well, okay, I'm gonna argue. Okay, did I tell you my theory? The reason why Star Wars never had to explain how all of its magic systems or like force systems work.
Yeah.
There's one reason. It's
what?
Because they said it takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Without that line, everyone would be like, how does this work? Because, as far as I could tell, if something takes place in the future, you have to explain how it works. But if it takes place in the past, you don't.
Oh, that makes sense.
I don't know why that makes sense.
No, I get that. It's like they subverted a major... That's why Star Wars isn't really science fiction.
Well, it's not. Everyone agrees it's a space opera, right? But I'm like, but how did they get away with it? Right?
Yeah.
Like, Star Trek takes place in the future, and the mechanics are a lot more relevant.
Yeah.
Star Wars takes place in the past.
But
even though you don't think it's the past, the fact that they told you that it was the past somehow like undoes the fact that it needs to somehow coincide coherently with our world.
I think it's more than that though, because I think like yes, that's true. I do agree with that because it takes place quote unquote in the past. There's a lot of you don't have to explain a lot of shit, but at the same time, I think like a lot of the concepts that the Force was playing with in exposition, it reflected a lot of stuff that already like existed in spiritual traditions that like Buddhist teachings or
and then the monomyth and all that, and
like Bushido, and all that stuff.
Well, I'm not saying the underpinnings,
but that ultimately could support what you're saying, because
Right.
like, yeah, if anything, that's just another like layer of that, like reflecting the past kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like maybe there is ancient wisdom that we're just completely like ignorant to, and then we just completely forgot about.
I mean, almost certainly to some degree, but who knows what its value is in the modern time.
Yeah, I mean, we could get into like how like a lot of the theological history of the world eerily reflects each other, and on top of that, like myths and occult theories, like pertaining to, say, Atlantis. You know, this super hyper advanced civilization that existed well before ancient. Like this is basically the civilization that ancient Egyptians would consider ancient. You know,
Right.
So shit like that, and how like it was a flood that wiped them out, and a flood is also referenced in the Bible, for
Yeah.
example.
Well, it's not the same flood, though. Is it?
What do you mean?
Like, would chronologically the flood that wiped out Atlantis be the same flood that was like the Noah's Ark flood?
Well, I mean, the whole Old Testament precedes Christ, right?
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
by definition.
yeah. So that's like a long time between like.
But like, what is Atlantis like a quote unquote myth that like how old is that concept of Atlantis?
Okay, so
like who talks about it first? Like which civilizations?
I don't know who talks about it first, but the first time I've ever heard Atlantis seriously referenced by like people that we take seriously academically was Socrates. Socrates talks about Atlantis, and supposedly he discussed it with an Egyptian. He discussed the city of Atlantis. Supposedly, I wasn't there, but like,
Yeah, okay.
But I do know he referenced it. You know, if you read what's it called, fucking the dialogues.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Socratic dialogues, he references Atlantis, and he said, so that's kind of like, I guess a good reference. And to Socrates, that was apparently ancient history. So
Right. Well, maybe okay, but here's the thing: if Socrates thinks it's advanced, maybe
he doesn't
like
know. I didn't say he thought it was advanced. He just the way he described it was like fantastical to him. But
Right,
in our
but I'm
reference, we
saying-
can look at that and say that's pretty fucking. You know, like
yeah, for all we know, it's like normal as shit.
Yeah.
or like
or for
like advanced for those times, but not.
yeah, exactly. Like, oh, are
like,
you
they're
serious?
not gonna have rocketry or whatever.
Like they had dialysis machines. No, I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe not that, but it's like, oh, they had electricity. You know, they had like.
I'd be surprised if it even went that far.
I mean, first of all, it's like the city was lost. That's what everyone
Right.
agreed on. That the city was sunk for whatever. It was destroyed. It was wiped out.
It's too cool to exist.
I mean, occult. Well, this is where like the occult mythology, occult theologists try to like fucking fill in the gaps by saying shit like Atlantis fucked up. They got so advanced with their technology and science that they learned how to do things that pissed off gods, basically.
right. Well, a lot of myths work like that.
Well, all right. So let's reframe that. You know, like let's say we that's how we heard it as myths. But what if it was like possibly, say, as a theory, like what if it was a super advanced species that colonized Earth, or maybe intermingled, or maybe colonized Earth for a long time, and maybe the people that colonized Earth for a while were like genetically engineered by an advanced species or whatever, and they said, we'll give you this, you guys can live here on Earth for whatever, however that is. But maybe it wasn't such a magical thing and more so like a hyper advanced technological thing,
Sure, but why do they sink? Or
Okay,
whatever?
so like apparently this is also reflected in a lot of creation myths, where like, for example, the idea of like the serpent presenting the forbidden fruit of knowledge to Eve, or say like Prometheus coming down getting punished for giving fire to man. Apparently, like maybe humans were given something by like the more advanced species that created them that advanced species was not supposed to give them. That's one theory. So as punishment, they were wiped out except for like a select few, so they could start over. Another theory is that they got too advanced. They started splicing animals with humans,
You mean, like
and
mermaids.
reptilians, even cats. Like because cats are like the only feline apparently with reptilian eyes or some shit like that. There's all, and then that kind of vaguely ties in with the idea of dragons and dragons disappearing when cats reappeared and cats started appearing and shit. There's just it's a lot. I wouldn't take any of it like completely seriously, but at the same time, it's like, you know, it's a if people are taking the Bible so literally, why not play around with that? You know, like.
Yeah, I don't think the Bible is meant to be taken literally, though. Like, I really don't.
No, I don't think so either in terms of like the history of everything. But you know what, it's not. It's like, I mean, the Bible is just one example, but I look at like texts and traditions as like blueprints. I mean, the main goal when it comes to religion and spiritual practices to me is alignment, mind, body, and soul. If you could figure out to align your energy body, your mental body, and your physical body, so they're not like, you know, at war with each other, then your life is going to get vastly improved. Christianity tells you to do it a certain way. Islam tells you to do it a certain way. Judaism tells you, but they all want, that's kind of what they're all trying to, albeit in their own ways, but they're all trying to push you into that state.
Well,
ideally.
Supposedly.
Unless you got like bad actors coming in and taking advantage of people's like, you know, search for meaning and being able to control masses of like people, you know,
Which does happen too.
100%.
What were you saying? Yeah, I just don't know that much about Atlantis.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I wasn't there. Like, I wasn't fucking there.
Yeah, I would say the only thing I really read about it that I thought was interesting is that basically people believed that Atlantis existed because there's these like really like flat rocks underwater.
Yeah,
like,
I've seen that. Yeah,
like, you know, like pyramid style, like giant flat rocks that like you would think someone had to have made.
Yeah,
but apparently those are naturally occurring, and people just don't believe it.
Another theory is that it's straight up where the Bermuda Triangle is.
Yeah, and then, you know, some people claim 9/11 was naturally occurring, but
Yeah. No, I mean, I like the Bermuda Triangle theory.
Well, yeah, I don't know. There's too many conspiracies to fucking keep track of. I can't like know enough about all of this.
Well, I don't mind like diving into conspiracy theory because none of it's making me scared. None of it's making me like paranoid or anxious.
No. The issue isn't that it makes you scared or anxious. The issue is that you just spend your time learning about something that doesn't actually matter.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that if you're getting something like if you're getting some kind of fulfillment from it.
I don't know if I agree with that. Like, you know, there's that expression, it's not what you don't know, it's what you know that just isn't so.
No. I mean,
like, that's kind of how I look at conspiracies. Like,
no, when I say
fuck your worldview up.
When I say fulfillment, I don't mean fulfillment as in like, oh, this is going to be perfect bedrock to build my whole like perspective of reality on. I'm saying like fulfillment as in,
like,
I don't know if
entertains you.
I don't know if this stuff is true, but it's a hell of a lot of inspiration I'm getting for art, for stories I want to create, for like, you know.
Well, yeah, I do agree. There is a lot of wisdom in a lot of these like tales. Yeah. But the wisdom is not in the literal. The wisdom is in the, you know, what they're about.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
It's not that like Atlantis existed. It's like the mythical concept of what happened to it.
Okay, so
it's not like the Greek gods existed. It's
here's
the mythical concept of what happened to the people who disobeyed them.
So here's where it gets pertinent because Atlantis, the idea of it, has a lot of ties to occult traditions, and occult traditions still matter because, I mean, yeah, the lineage behind the legacy and the origin stories behind their theocracy maybe sound like bunk and it's, you know, whatever, but those traditions survived because they do benefit people in a profound way. For example, like billionaires are highly into like numerology or into like...
I don't know if that's true, but okay.
What do you mean?
Like, which ones?
Like Kim Kardashian, for example. The whole Kardashian clan, apparently, like... I don't know. It's not to say that this is what caused their success, but it's evident in the practice of, like, say, like naming all the children in a specific set, a certain thing. Who knows if they'll ever confirm doing it intentionally, but, you know, like, they do it, you know?
Okay. I wouldn't call... that's such a tricky one because, yeah, okay, Kardashians are very famous and successful. But I don't know. like I don't know how the mechanics of their
You can't.
success
You're
works.
never gonna get there. You're never gonna believe in that sort of stuff using like an intellectual, logical thing. Which is why my approach was my favorite. Where I was like, I don't know if this is real. I don't know if it isn't. But what I am going to do is I'm going to fucking try this shit out, and I'm going to
Sure.
like observe the results. And some of it was like stupid. Some of it was like absolutely real. And it's not like there's going to be institutions that could really confirm the benefits or not of it. I mean, it just doesn't. It doesn't operate on that kind of level. For example, like when
Yeah.
you're talking about semen retention, or,
Yes.
there's no biological evidence to say it's beneficial or harmful to retain semen, but you could just try it. Or even on a psychological level, it's like it may not be about the semen. It could just be the actual act of gooning to porn every single day that could be fucking destroying you. But even still, it still leads to the same place. And maybe like in ancient civilizations, when they were talking about semen retention, they want to avoid the specific same outcome, whether it's through internet porn or not. Just like sitting around jacking off all day was just not good for you. Like
Yeah, for sure.
but that's just one example. Or like meditation. Meditation isn't really beneficial at all on a material level, on a physically observable level. But I mean, yeah, if you go through neuroscience and like measuring quantifiable levels of like stress hormones and stuff like that, yeah, now science is catching up to like stuff like that and the actual tangible benefits.
Well, meditation I think is a little complicated because, like, you can't. Like, it occurs in the mind. How do you know if your mind really did
It's
the thing?
it's an intangible. It's something that
Yeah.
you can't grasp or hold with your hand.
Right.
You can't like see it. You can't smell it. You can't hear it. You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an intangible. But the thing is, like, what I'm saying is those things, just because that's what I would consider like metaphysical. It operates on the plane of metaphysical, existence.
Sure.
Just like love. Love is an intangible. So is time. Like we can't.
Time's a little more tangible than love, but okay.
Well, time isn't tangible to me because time could be fucked with. You could literally fuck with time.
Yeah, but it's not in the same way as like it. Yeah, is it like a different category though?
You're right. I agree.
Like,
Time is, if anything, it's like less like intangible, like less like love and more like gravity. Like
yeah,
yeah.
I would say so.
You're right. No, you're right. Time isn't the same as isn't quite the same levels of intangible as like consciousness, but it is like one of those. It's vaguely eerie. It's like it operates on an eerie plane.
Right. Yeah, but you're talking about like emergent phenomenon that are.
Is time an emergent phenomenon?
No, it's a physical phenomenon.
I don't know.
Well, when I say emergent, I mean like, our interactions as people with like perception.
Yeah.
So
time could just be time is
like we perceive time, but it also exists like outside of us. Like
it does
we
exist outside of us.
perceive love, but I don't think it like if there was no people, there would be no love.
That's
Like,
interesting.
There'd be time.
That you're right. But I think what's more true is that people like maybe time as we know it. Not time as like as a universal thing, but time as in the human perception of time is very linear, right?
I guess.
Because of the way our bodies are built, because of the way our brains are built, we're only going to experience time at the rate we experience it, and then at the window that we get to experience it at all.
Well, I argue the rate at which we experience it in is very weird.
We were just talking about how like if there was a person who lived like hundreds of our lifetimes, like their perception of time would be vastly different to us.
Yeah.
Like to us they would be moving in like really slow motion, but to them they're just like moving at the same rate we're moving.
Well, fun fact, there's an anime about that coming out right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of like works of fiction that kind of like played with this concept, but I mean, this also goes back to say like, I use this as an analogy. Like we were just talking about how like, if gods existed, they would just be like, I perceive them as moving so slow where like the time it takes them to blink would take like thousands of human lifetimes.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking like, like if you were say like sitting behind a computer screen running a reality simulation and you just hit like fast forward times 1,000,000, it's the same exact thing. Like they're living their regular thing. Just to you, it's like sped up like so much because you're the mod behind the simulation while they're just living it. Same, it could be the same with us.
Yeah, different time scales.
Different time, yeah. Time preferences, time scale. Well, time preference is different from time perception, I guess.
But time scale is different still, right? Like,
But that's the thing, like,
like flies or whatever.
but I do think there's different ways, like even in our own specific human linear mode mode of time perception. There's still ways to play around with it that I don't think people consider. Like, I think you could just say things off the cuff, like, oh, yeah, you could communicate with your past and future selves. You could share thoughts with your past and future selves, and you could be working towards the same goals at the same time. And it's like, that makes no fucking sense. Like, what are you fucking talking about? You'd have to actually sit there and like contemplate and like put together the framework of like of conscious what's the word, sequence of initiation to be able to like to break out of like how we're used to doing. Because if no one teaches you that, you're never gonna figure that out. Well, most likely you're never gonna even consider that. Like, wait a minute, how do I share thoughts with my past and future self? And there's surprising, like, when you put a little bit of thought into it, there's a lot of ways to do that.
Well, I mean, with your future self, it's pretty straightforward. You just think something right now and remember it.
Okay, yeah, you're right. So the past self is the tricky one, but it's not that tricky. So you just have to get used to it. The thing about communicating with your past self, that's a line of communication that takes time to build. For example, let's say your whole life you never made an effort once to communicate with your past self, to share thoughts with your past self. So you're gonna have to start it yourself as the present self, because you're not your past self, you're not your future, you are your present self. So you have to, as your present self, initiate that form of communication, which is easy to do. I mean, it's easy in a sense where immediately to start, you're not gonna get anything back, but you could send things back. You could say, like, to my past self a day ago, I forgive you for all the mistakes you've made. I'm sorry for not being in touch. From here on out, we'll always, we'll stay in better touch, past self, from a day ago, right? But then one day goes by and you do that again. Then another day goes by and then you do that again. Suddenly but at the same time, you're also communicating with your future self. So it eventually just inevitably it strengthens itself just through repetition. So it's like, as your present self, if one day you're speaking to yourself one day before and you're speaking to yourself one day ahead, then the next day you're doing the same thing, you're building, that connection becomes stronger, and suddenly your consciousness isn't locked into like that linear state of yourself anymore. Now you're actually you're more, I don't want to say the Q word because it's incorrect, but like, you know what I mean, like,
I guess. I mean, I do think it helps to think of yourself as more than just the person in the present.
Well, you are more than the person in the present.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
For example,
but you have to also think that.
If you believe in, all right, I think like we're us as laymen are slowly, me as a layman, is like, people like me are slowly getting like drip fed, like, through popular media and stuff, like, oh, like now kids are more savvy to the idea of a parallel universe, But I'm saying, like, that's essentially what we're talking about. If we're talking about something that's existing now, but except in the future and in the past, but it's like happening for them and it's happening for them.
Well, that's not parallel.
That is parallel, because we're never going to be in the future. We're never going to be in the present. We're never going to be in the past. We're only going to be in the present. The future only becomes relevant.
We have been in the past, and we're going to be in the future.
Yeah, but I'm saying but we're still in the present.
Yeah.
By the time we're in the future, that future is going to be the present.
Sure, but that's like a semantic game at that point.
But that's the whole basis of the limitations. Our limitations are built on semantics, like that kind of limitation is built on semantics.
What do you think parallel dimensions means?
All right, so let's start with time, because it expands with dimensions, like you said. So let's just start with linear time. The idea that where there's only one point in time that we're experiencing and it's just passing by, right, is actually apparently not the only way to look at it. You could also look at it as all points in time are happening at once. It's just us and our physical brain only able to perceive it in a straight line. But in reality, like, that's still happening. Even though that moment passed by for you, that moment didn't just go away or stop existing. It's still happening. It's just your physical brain, your physical vessel, your physical state, as you are now, you're only going to get to experience that conveyor belt. That one point in the conveyor belt.
This also like plays into determinism, right?
No, I don't think so, because we're all right. See, this is when we start, right? So now let's expand that as not just like one line, one conveyor belt, but let's add consciousness into it, which means you get choice. So it's not just like suddenly it's not just one line. It suddenly branches off into infinite lines. And remember, past and future isn't like the idea of them all only the present existing and it passing by is illusion. Really, they're all happening at the same time, not just that one line, but also every possible future and every other parallel past that hasn't happened, but that has happened based on another choice that you didn't make. But starting small, right, is just like doing that one line. Just start with your past self and your future self. Then you break off into your possible selves.
Yeah,
you know, like
just do that one line, yeah.
Or put it this way, like they used to, when I used to be a Chris Kim, right, that never won a sword tournament in my life. And I could have easily continued to be a Chris Kim who never won a sword tournament in my life. But I wanted to go down that parallel path that wanted to win that fucking sword tournament. So I had to change my state, basically change my physical state and the things I was doing and the things I was thinking and the things I was like feeling to better reflect the state that's going to accept that reality.
But how do you know that's never been inevitable? What if you were always going to be a Chris Kim who won a sword tournament?
I had to volunteer for it. I had to work at it. You know.
No, but I'm saying, like, what if you were always going to make that choice?
I don't think so.
Why not?
I mean, yeah, I think it's yes and no. I think that version of me was always going to make that choice, but there was other versions of me that never made that choice, and they exist too. I just experienced the one that did. I don't think
other versions of you exist. How? Because how would they exist? Like, what is an other version of you? There's no other version. There's just you.
I mean, you'd have to like. I guess you'd have to believe in it. You'd have to believe in the idea that every time you make a decision, you're creating separate universes. You're creating a universe where you made a different decision.
I don't think that's The problem is decision is like as a discrete event is an abstraction, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's a moment of creation. Art is a perfect example.
Yeah, but I'm saying there like if you zoom in, there's no single moment where an art happens, right? It's like a process over time. Like, you know, they say a work is never finished.
Actually, it's interesting you say that. You know, there's this idea where if you did unlock time travel, let's say you go into the past, and you changed one little thing, right?
Yeah, obviously. We know all this, yeah. That's a common thing.
The idea, what do you think I was going to say?
That it's going to change the rest of everything.
No. Well, that's not what I was going to say. I'm saying, like, let's say you change the most minuscule thing, right?
Yeah.
They say that the thing that would be, like, most likely to change first, that's like most prone to changing immediately, like in the most weirdest, profound ways, is art. So like, let's say you go back like fucking 10 years ago and then you sneak into Dimitri's room and then you take one sock out of the drawer, even if that Dimitri will never fucking notice it, right? But because you took that one sock out of the drawer, like everything stays mostly the same, except for like Ice Spice is actually called like Big Red or some shit, you know, like it's just
that sounds like a much better universe.
No, but I'm just saying it's like interesting that we use art as an example of things that are like
hold on. A, who the hell said this, and B, why would you think that's the case?
Because it's, first of all, like we're talking about all the deviations in like events in time happening as a product of as a direct result of consciousness, because it has like things have to be a thought before you do anything, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So like it's like, for example, your conscious decisions really do direct your entire physical experience in a way. Like you could consciously decide to pour yourself water or orange juice.
But it's also like a feedback, right? Like your conscious decisions are informed by the current state of everything else.
Not really. Not all conscious decisions.
See, the problem is you're operating from a context where your consciousness is metaphysical, right? So you believe that you can take things that are greater or like beyond the sum of
your physical brain,
yeah, which I am kind of skeptical of.
I know, and I could completely understand, because if you take that, if that goes out of hand, then you could get a real fucking crazy person. You know, like I get that, I understand that.
But like, okay, let's say that is true, right? Like, what there'd still be limitations on it, right?
What do you mean?
Like, if you can surpass, you know, go beyond physical reality with your decision making, you don't have like infinite capacity to make infinite non-deterministic decisions.
All right, like if you're as long as you're conscious. Look, I could go into, I'm just saying theoretically, right? Let's say your consciousness is detached from the product of your physical vessel and you know the output of your brain functioning, right? Let's say that's the case. if that's true, um, I was actually trying to like put forth a question, but I completely blanked out on what question I was trying to ask. Anyway, what were you saying? What were you saying? Maybe I'll just like remember it down the line.
No, I wasn't saying anything. I'm just saying like there's got to be limitations of what metaphysics can do for you, right?
Oh yeah, okay. So what I think that it's not. This isn't even my original idea. That's why I'm trying to recall it. So the idea is not my idea, but the idea is that your consciousness is a product of not just your brain functioning, or your bodily functioning, like like the hormones that, or like your nervous system and shit, but also like a soul matrix, an energy, like metaphysical. Some people want to refer to it as a vibration or a frequency of things, just of energy. I guess they call it in its purest form. It's just energy, and they'll say like, oh, you have a soul. So when you strip away the consciousness, when you strip the consciousness away from the body and the physical element and the mind and the brain and the product of your brain, you basically go through ego death, right?
I guess.
Yeah, because your brain is what creates your fear responses. It creates your ego. It creates your need to acquire resources so you could fucking survive and not freeze to death and not starve. That's why it exists. That's the whole point of your physical manifestation of thought, of your mentality.
So you're talking about like the subconscious, basically.
I think it's very conscious. It's your very surface level conscious that keeps you alive, right? It tells you to eat when you're feeling hungry. It tells you to sleep when you're feeling.
That's subconscious, no?
No. Subconscious is like intuition. Subconscious is when you know when you could intuit certain things about people's intentions, and you're like, you doubt your intuition, and you're like, no, this person's probably just like whatever. And then turns out down the line you were absolutely fucking right, and you should have listened to your gut.
Okay, what's the overlap between subconscious and ego? Are they the same thing or are they different things?
The problem is,
is consciousness ego or subconsciousness ego?
The problem is modern society really strengthens and rewards and completely dumbs down and represses your subconscious. So it basically rewards your ego output, and it basically punishes you for acting out of intuition or expressing your intuitive expression. So modern society does not like that, because it makes sense. I'm not saying modern society is evil for suppressing your fucking intuition. No, it makes sense. First of all, let's look at it this way. You can't be intuitive when you're in survival state, and we referred we referred your survival state as something of a necessity. For example, when you're in an environment where things are trying to fucking kill you in the wild, like animals or poisonous substances, or like
that's when intuition is the most prevalent.
No. That's when you're in your most material, your most visceral, your most body 3-dimensional state, because you need to be that way.
Yeah.
You're not gonna sit there and fucking meditate when you got animals around you circling around you trying to fucking kill you. No, you're in your like survival mode. You're like you're thinking purely logically. You're like, oh, if I don't do this, if I don't handle this, that's gonna get infected. I'm gonna die. If I don't do this, find a good source of water, I'm gonna die. If I don't do that's the whole point. That's your ego. That's your lizard brain. Same thing with money. It's like, if I don't get the money, I'm not gonna be able to. No, dude, that's not intuition. That's all material. That's your material sense. Your intuition has more to do with emotion and connections.
Yeah, well, a lot of times I feel like in those situations you are using emotion.
No,
like you feel fear.
Oh, well,
like
yeah. Emotions. Yeah, I'm not saying you're completely cut off from emotion in that in that survival state, but it's not an intuitive state. There's like what I'm saying. All right, emotions are not exactly like equivalent to like your entire intuition state, because your intuition has an agenda.
Sure.
The goal of your ego and your mind, right?
Yeah.
That's to survive.
I'm just saying
the goal of your ego and your mind is to survive and to not die. Whether that means not die conceptually, whether it means that's not die literally, it's just to survive. Okay. The goal of your intuition and your soul and your heart matrix, the goal of that is to love. The highest ideal for your intuition and your heart is love. And you, like your whole emotional body, what it wants is to love and to be loved, is to experience love and to express love. That's the goal.
Sounds hot.
That's the goal of our soul, of our intuition. Like, so, but the goal of the body, the goal of this, of the flesh, that's to survive.
Okay, so by those definitions, you're saying like if you're under attack, you don't have the capacity to love. You're just trying to live.
Unless you're a person who practices.
Right.
Because if you're able to, that's the thing. If you're able to maintain that it's compassion. If you're able to maintain compassion in a state of combat as a warrior, you are truly a master. You know, like that means that you understand what this is all about. Even when you're fighting, even when you're making love to your wife, even when you're, you know, teaching your class, even when you're fucking amongst your coworkers, you know, despite any situation, the ultimate goal, you still get the true, you know, the true point. Most people in modern society forget that. They forget the what their intuition, what their soul wants. All they get caught up in what they materially want. I need to survive. I need to not suffer. I need a home. I need a house. I need to take down these awful pedophiles. I need to fucking make sure I have enough money in the bank. I need to make sure my fucking name's out there. I got to make my fucking brand huge. You know, this is all ego shit. But when you consider like the goal of your soul, it's to just live in a state where it's like, dude, my soul just wants to love. So this is what I mean. This goes back to what I mean when if you want to find the path to enlightenment, it's to make it so your mind, body, and soul are all on the same team. Yeah. You know what your soul wants, you know what your body wants, and you know what your mind wants. If you make it so all three of them are on the same side, make it so that your mind, it doesn't prevent your soul from feeling love. Make it so your soul doesn't prevent your mind from feeling unsafe. Make it so your mind isn't fucking making your body out of whack. You know, you got to make it so those three are together, you know, on the same side.
Easier said than done.
I know. I should stop. You know what? Like, cause like I guess I don't like the idea of being able to necessarily do things that other people necessarily can't. It doesn't make me feel comfortable.
Well, hold on. I feel like that's a pretty common state. Most people can do things that other people can't.
Yeah, but this is such a deep, visceral thing. It's not like it's a very intimate, personal thing that it's not like you have to be big and strong or like tall to like access this kind of thing. This is a very like intimately deep. It's introspective, I guess.
Well, look, there's a difference between anyone can do it and everyone can do it, right?
Really?
Like, well, I guess that's semantic, but I mean like saying for a given amount of people, you could take any person and have them do the thing. Right, but that doesn't mean that in practice every single person will do it.
Yeah.
Right? So like even if everyone has the capacity, that doesn't mean everyone will achieve the capacity.
No, you're right. And what I'm also discovering, because I've been doing
most people have the capacity for most things, and you know, they won't achieve like 95% of their capacity because they just can't. Like you're just limited by time and practice and energy
and time. Solitude. Yeah, solitude is the number one key that I found in the modern context.
Solitude
in the context of modern spirituality. If you want to, like, one thing that's preventing people from like reaching the state of self-alignment is in a constant is because they're constantly being bombarded by other people's energies, which is /intention /will /
that
presence.
Is kind of true. Okay, I'll agree with that.
I'm just saying, like, if you give you as an adult, like if you primarily lived like closely like around other humans and never afforded your own like solitude for long periods of time throughout the day, like that's like gonna stunt you, I think, because you're not gonna have time to truly center yourself and find yourself, you know. No matter what you believe in, you're gonna have to like center yourself, because everyone's got like conflicting things within them. That's what leads to, for example, cognitive dissonance. Like,
sure,
you know, that's the clinical way to put like disalignment. It's like, oh, my body my heart wants to love, but my body just wants to hurt people. Why? You know, it's like, you know, it's like, oh shit, you know, that's like serious misalignment, you know.
Yeah, but what was I gonna say? No, I mean I think you need both, right? I think you need.
Yeah, I said solitude. Like they exist for a reason, you know.
No, I'm saying I think you need solitude, and you need like interpersonal stuff. Like you could probably go faster, like, you know, learning from people than just being by yourself. But at the same time, you need to kind of get into the state where you're ready to accept lessons from it.
But this is why being in survival mode all the time, like people don't even realize they're in survival mode. Like, let's say they may not necessarily be in survival mode when it comes to the next meal or having shelter or whatever, but they could still access that same instinct, that same drive socially, for example, through social connections. Like they could become like crazy social climbers, which could in itself lead you to like serious trouble and like serious like fucked up situations, you know.
Sure.
That people could get addicted to getting romantically involved with people, and that could also lead them to like fucked up situations, you know, like,
and sexy ones.
Exactly. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, it like that. It's like you have to recognize what that is, and it's not just in any specific context. It's not just in the context of like wilderness survival.
Yeah.
It's not just in the context of like physical danger. It's you could let that kind of mentality go in any area of life, you know, like it's not.
Yeah. I mean, something I think about that I encounter amongst my peers, I guess, is I have several friends that make like, let's say over 100K, right?
Yeah.
Like per year. And they're
I'm
like,
close. I'm getting close to the 6-figure mark. But
I mean,
I
maybe
don't want to
now
work, so I want to
look,
walk away from that.
Look, maybe nowadays it's not as big a deal to make.
No, I think it's
over
still
100K,
I think it's still a big deal.
But I'm just saying, like, they have plenty of money, in my opinion, right? And they're all like, "Oh, we don't have enough money. We don't have enough money." I'm like, "You sure?"
Well, you got to ask them like how much is enough.
Well, exactly, but like, I feel like they can't fully answer that.
Well, then they're never going to.
Or
have enough.
like, the number is higher than you would think it should be.
Well, that's even better. That's usually a better scenario than having no number at all, which is mostly the case. They're just usually thinking, I just need more. I just need more.
Right, but I'm saying like, maybe it's a theoretical number at that point, but like, were they to get it, I don't know if they would stop necessarily.
I don't think. I think like that's a poor people thing to do. To look at one static number and they say, if I have that much, I'll be set. I think like to be a little smarter, you have to at least know how to say things like, I don't want to set.
No. I mean, to be fair, their exact answer tends to usually be like, yeah, it's like where I don't have to work. I can do the following activities and like own the following things. And yeah.
I think it's like, for example, like if you tell yourself, like, if I made $100 million a year, I'd never have to worry about anything ever again. And that's like true. Like that's
well,
like.
No, you'd have to worry about your $100 million first.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You have to worry about kidnapping insurance. You have to worry about you'd have to worry about like insurance, regular insurance. You'd have to worry about
just making sure your $100 million is around.
Yo, if I was making $100 million a year, first of all, I would not buy a mansion. I don't think I would own anything. I don't think I would own property at all. I think I would just like travel my whole life.
I mean, I wouldn't say. Okay, as far as I could tell, at that point, like owning property is just a very straightforward thing. It's like buying like gum at a store. Like,
honest, put it this way: $100 million in a year. Like, let's say you had a year to spend $100 million, and like a property can range you in the millions easily.
Yeah,
like,
it can. But I'm saying like you're
spending at least 20 mil on a house.
No, but like, I'm saying you're like. I want a house in New York. Okay, done. Like, I want a house in, like, this place. Done. Like, okay, maybe not gum, but, it's like... it's like buying, like, a major purchase.
Like a car or a motorcycle.
No, it's like a really nice, like, coat or backpack.
I was thinking, I get so tempted to buy motorcycles like every single time I surf the web because it's only like $4,000.
Yeah, they're
I could
not
buy
that expensive.
I could buy that shit. Like, I'm like, yo, what would I do with a motorcycle though? It's like I'd have to fucking get a license for it,
Okay, well, actually, that reminds me of another thought I keep coming back to.
What?
Okay, so I feel like oftentimes, when people are poor, they have very like defined limits, right? Like, how much food can you afford? Well, however much you have.
Poor people mentality. Yeah.
No, but forget mentality.
I'm saying it's economically more expensive to be poor.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying like, like it's never a question to you of like, how much should you spend on food? Because you only have so much to spend, right? It's not a question of like, what can you buy? Because you only have so much money.
Yeah.
But I'm saying at some point, like when you get rich enough, you could buy literally most things you could think of.
Yeah.
Right. So like, how do you know how to limit yourself? Like,
are you asking me?
Well, I think it's a general conceptual question, right? Because like, okay, like I could buy like any guitar that I encounter.
Yeah.
To some degree. Not like every time I encounter one.
Yeah.
Right? But like if I want, I could just fill my house with guitars.
Yeah.
Right? So like what's stopping me? Right? Like if I want, I could have like, very expensive food all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, not for long, but
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
like I want some savings, but
yeah.
So it's like, how do you know like what's like an appropriate place to be like, okay, this is like how many I should have. Like it's a different conception at that point. I think some poor people like kind of fuck that up because they're always just used to being limited by money. So they just spend all their money just because that's how they limit themselves.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, in some cases where it's like it depends on what type of poor you are.
Yeah, I'm not saying, well, like, okay, what's your approach to like limiting yourself? Like, how do you know when you shouldn't do more? Like, when enough is enough?
Okay.
When you have enough resources to do more.
So I'll start with food, right? And here's my whole story with food.
Okay.
By the time like I went through my last breakup, like I gained a lot of weight and I didn't realize it, but I was like, oh shit, Jesus Christ, I got to do something about this. Especially because of COVID, that didn't help either.
Well, what's a lot?
I was like, I had a noticeable gut, you know, like,
well, same, but
I mean, and I was also a martial artist, so it wasn't just aesthetic. It was also like,
it was like affecting your performance.
I mean, it's not that it was affecting it, but I thought in my head, it's like, I could probably be a lot better at this, obviously, if I was in better shape. It would not like if I looked better. It was just if I was in better shape, I would probably be better at this. So that was another incentive, you know, like.
Well, okay, but this kind of goes back to the question, right? Like, how do you know how good you should be at martial art? Like, how do you know how much resources
Well, listen,
to devote to
that was I didn't go that deep into it. So there was that, and there was the aesthetic part, there was that, and there was also like, you know, there was other things too, like I've never been ripped before and stuff, and also like I've never been in good shape in my life, like quote unquote good shape. So I was curious, you know, like I want to experiment, like I want to see what it was like to be that way.
Well, what's it like?
I don't know, it feels good.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is
well, do you think it was worth it?
Well, there's levels to it. So a lot of things affected my diet that I didn't think it would. Like, for example, like there was the martial arts thing, the tournament. The tournament was coming, and that cut down my drinking a lot because I didn't want to I felt it was stupid. Like, why? My hair.
Why would you sabotage yourself?
Like, remember, I was like, dude, if I don't win this, I'm gonna shave my fucking head. So I don't want to shave my head.
That was the bet you made with yourself.
So I did everything I could to not fuck that up, which diet was a big part of it. Like, I'm gonna not eat like shit because that's just gonna hurt my chances. So that also kind of like threw in. Another thing was after the tournament, the whole spiritual thing, right? Because like. There was this whole thing where it's like, dude, if you're doing shit that's like knowingly doing shit that's bad for your body, like why are you doing that? And plus by then I was already intermittent fasting to like lose weight, and it just kind of like, it wasn't that it forced it, it was just kind of like cooperating in a weird, like as this new thing came, it just kind of reinforced it, right? And then as I got deeper into spiritual shit, I learned about Taoism. And how they say, like, you know, if you eat bigger animals have more complex chi networks. That means they have more capacity to build fear energy. So when you eat bigger animals, you're also consuming their fear energy, unless, you know, they really like went out of their way to like kill them humanely, which they almost never fucking do. But like I'm saying, like in general, when you eat these animals, you're also consuming their fear energy. So I stopped eating beef and pork just to like see what it was like to not consume as much fear energy, which inadvertently also, you know, helped me lose a lot of fat, made me even more lean, and I was still getting a lot of protein because I was eating more chicken and fish. Like I eat a lot more chicken and fish now, and that's another thing. So it's like over time, I think like as I was getting more deeper into like metaphysical shit, I just put more conscious thought into like, you know, the stuff that was going into my body. And plus another thing was, I love drinking. Like I love smoking weed. I love doing drugs. I love drinking. So there's no way I could sustain this while also having a shitty fucking poor diet. It's not going to work.
Okay.
So I like, if there's one thing that I can actually control like very, very easily, it's what I fucking eat.
Sure. But okay. So what you're saying basically is you found a different
it was just expanded consciousness. Like I wasn't as conscious of like the idea of like that every cell of what I eat was like being expressed in my body in different ways. I didn't think that. I didn't think like that until I started thinking like that.
What you're saying is you subsumed your diet. That's your diet was placed in the context of higher level goals. So it wasn't just about like, oh, should I eat this or should I eat that? It's like I have a higher level goal. How does my diet? It
started like that.
Okay, that's actually good.
It started like that with the sword thing, and then afterwards it turned into more conscious of like, wait a minute, why did like not eating like shit help my chances of winning the sword tournament? I mean, it's like a no brainer when you say it like that, but when I wanted to understand the actual mechanics of that process, there was like the science behind it. There was also the spiritual end of it. There was like a lot of things supporting what I was doing. So I was like, might as well keep fucking doing it because it fucking works. You know?
Yeah, okay, but then, you know, that goes back to the second question, you know, how all-consuming do you think your goals should be? You know, like...
Well, my goal isn't, like, to get, like, super buff.
No, I'm saying, like, okay, you're winning, you know, you're trying to win the sword tournament, right?
No, I'm trying to go for self-alignment.
But I'm saying, like, back then, you were trying to win the sword tournament, right? So you're like, oh, I got to change my diet. right? Like, how much changes do you think are like too much changes?
Oh,
What if you're like, okay, I'm gonna stop like seeing friends, I'm gonna stop watching TV, like I'm just gonna practice sword, like whole life, full devotion. Like you didn't do that.
no. It was just because I looked at it as like, you mean just in the strictly the context of my diet, right?
Well, I mean, in general, I'm saying like, how do you know where to limit your devotion to the goal? Or you just kind of like, diet is enough.
Oh,
Like-
you know what? You're right. That is an interesting thing. No, because there was all the efforts I did for myself. I didn't think about this consciously when I was like setting my own routines, but I also knew like other people's. I was also conscious of other people's patterns,
Okay.
because I would practice with other people, and I also kind of had a vague idea of who I was competing against and the rate at which they
Okay,
practiced.
So you basically were like, I need to get this good to beat these people.
There's a saying in I think it was The Art of War. It's like, know thyself and know thy enemy. If you
Yeah.
only know thyself but don't know thy enemy, you get a 50% chance of winning. If you only know thy enemy but don't know yourself, you only get 50% chance of winning. If you don't know either yourself or your enemy, you get 0% chance. If you know both yourself and your enemy, then you have a 100% chance of winning.
Based.
Yeah, so I don't. It's not like I say that in my head over and over. I just
No,
one
I
of the
know.
things I guess I subconsciously just kind of remembered. You know.
So you basically had a vague idea of how much you needed to devote to beat everyone.
No, it's also because I've been doing it by then for 7 years. So it's like I
Well,
knew
I'm
this
saying,
art
yeah.
form like as a 7-year practitioner. So like I kind of knew a lot about it already.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying, like, yeah, you had an idea
Yeah, I had an idea,
of how much effort you'd need. It wasn't like you were like,
but I didn't know for sure though.
No,
I wasn't
I'm not saying-
100%.
Yeah, I'm saying like, but like you had like a vague goal. You weren't
Yeah.
like, orders of magnitude off.
No,
Right,
no.
you
I was
weren't
pretty
like-
I was pretty accurate in my estimations. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, that makes sense. Yeah. If you know what your goal involves and you know how much sacrifice you need to get there, then yeah, you could pretty accurately.
Maybe
make
I
those
do have a good
sacrifices.
instinct because I did the same thing with GameStop. I made like $10,000 off of fucking GameStop.
That's not a lot.
I mean, for a fucking stupid fucking gamble, yeah, it was pretty sick for me.
Oh, 10,000 off of how much?
100 shares.
Well, like, how much money did you invest?
Oh, I mean, I think I only invested for 100 shares at the time. It was like $40, $40 something dollars. So I invested
Right.
about 4,500, and I walked away with $10,000 profit, around $10,000 profit. It was like 9,000 and something profit. So it was around.
Yeah.
I basically made by principle and made an extra 10 G's off the top, which was nice, you know.
Yeah, but I'm saying by that logic, shouldn't you have just put in more?
Off of GameStop. I mean, I should be happy with what I got.
You should be, but I'm just saying, like, if you put in like $1,000, you would have made like a lot.
I already
more.
put in $4,000.
Well, you said you made 9,000.
No, I put in around $4,500.
Oh, so you just doubled your money.
No. I made 10,000. I made.
Oh,
I,
so
s-
you
I sold it
tripled
at
your
like
money.
I sold it at like 200 something. No, not 200 something dollars. I sold it at like. I'm trying to do the math. It was over what I bought it for. Yeah, but I made profit like $10,000 or something.
Right. Okay, so you tripled your money.
About,
that's
yeah.
fair. Well, like, but again, like, then the question.
You're
is,
right.
what
If I
if-
put in like if I didn't do shares and I did options, you're right. I would have fucking made stupid fucking money. You're right. I would have made a lot of fucking money.
I
But
mean-
there's some people that made a lot more than that. So
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I actually started investing very recently.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
I don't know. I only did it like a week ago.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to buy Rolls Royce, but they're under $5. So if you want to help me get it,
Rolls Royce,
yeah,
the stock.
yeah.
Yo, you know what? I'm actually working on a portfolio myself because I just paid I had to pay my corporate
Okay.
taxes, but
Hold on. Do we want to reveal this on the podcast? Are
Yeah.
people gonna take investment advice
I don't
from
give a
us?
fuck. Look, what I have I have Lockheed Martin, Raytheon.
Oh, you're trying to do the war shit.
Yeah. No, the UFO shit. Like these are the guys that are like directly involved with reverse engineering, like alien technology and shit.
Nah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't go for that.
Boeing.
Boeing's fucked, in my opinion.
Are you
Could be
kidding me?
wrong.
Boeing's an institution. Boeing's not going anywhere.
No, dude.
All right, you know what? I actually got a good stock tip for you. If you want a really good company to invest in, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they give dividends. This is like Coca-Cola level good. If you really want a solid fucking stock, U-Haul. U-Haul is, first of all, it's an American government subsidized company.
Really?
Second of all, they're always going to be in business, no matter what the economy looks like. They will.
I mean, is it like a growth stock or is it like a?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. As long as the population keeps growing, then yeah, there's going to be more people moving shit around. Yeah, so yeah, I'd say it's a growth stock.
Well, growth stock usually means it goes faster than the regular.
Oh no, it's not like a startup like rapid. Like it's not like to the moon or anything. But it's
okay. But usually that's what people mean when they say this is a good investment. If you mean like a stable.
All right,
stock,
no. When I say it's a good investment, I say keep this company in mind.
Park your money there.
Yeah, no, don't park your money there. I'm saying go start a StockTwits account where you could just look at all you could just monitor all the stock, your whole list, your watch list, and if you see U-Haul suddenly just dip huge 4%, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but 4% or some crazy shit for whatever reason, buy it. If you ever, that's one of those things where if you see it just shoot downwards,
so you could capitalize on something that's going to be stable.
That's how you trade, dude.
There's many strategies.
What I noticed is when let's say earnings come out and people they see a stock like Ford, for example, just go straight and drop something ridiculous 12-13%.
Yeah.
People will panic and they're like, oh, let's short it. Yo, the company's tanking. It's good. They're going to go out of business. First of all, you sound like a stupid person.
But you got to look at the fundamentals. Sometimes it's never going to go back.
You're right. First of all, you're right. I agree. Fundamentals are always something you look at. But my argument is the stock market is irrational. It does not go by fundamentals.
That is also true.
So you can't look at fundamentals. What I am good at is understanding that when something after an earnings call, a company announces their quarterly results, and shit goes shooting down. Depends on the stock. If it's some no-name biotech company, then yeah, there's a good chance they're going under. But if it's a company like Ford, you're this is clearly a huge overestimation. That means if it's that low, I'm going to buy it, and I'm probably going to make some fucking money because I know they're not going to fucking go out of business after one poor earnings roll and for whatever reason they just did poor.
Sure.
They're not same thing with Apple, same thing with I don't know. Some questions are a little some companies are a little dicey when it happens because sometimes the fear gets to you. Sometimes you buy you sip the Kool-Aid and you're is Amazon really going to go out of business? You're get the fuck out of here.
I mean, the thing I keep thinking about when it comes to stocks is not just when you buy, but when you sell.
So you're worried about yourself. It's maybe I could wait till it gets higher and higher.
Well, that's what I feel what usually happens, right?
Okay, so you give yourself a rule. Just don't try to go past 10% profit. If it makes 10%, sell.
Yeah, but then anyone who held Nvidia is kicking your fucking ass right now.
Well, no.
Or
I mean, the idea is
anyone who held Apple is
those people. It's for example, let's say you buy 1,000 shares into something and you already made a lot. Yeah. Don't sell all of it. Just sell most of it, and then you keep that little bit. And usually it's that little bit that gets people rich. I kept that little bit. It's I didn't sell all of it. That's really what you do.
So far, everything I've seen, the people who make the most money are the people who buy a stock that ends up going up and just forget about it, and then they check back and they're like, "Whoa, this went up 5 times."
No, you're right. I mean,
imagine you bought GameStop, way back in the day, just forgot. And then you check and it went up 300%, 3,000%, right?
that's the Warren Buffett method of investing.
No, I mean yes, but I'm saying he does it a little differently. He's not going for this is gonna moonshot, right? He's
no, he's
it's gonna be consistent.
He says to invest in the stock market as if it's going to be closed for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, but then you'd never invest in GameStop, right? Because in 10 years, that's a flash in the pan. The whole, hyper growth.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. What was it? The
and
short squeeze.
if you're not trying to make those plays, then yeah, for sure. But I'm saying if you're trying to make those plays, how do you know when to sell?
Oh, you mean it's just gambling. It's playing chicken.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Well, you could again keep following your rule. You could say it doesn't have to be 10%. You could say if it's any more than 40%, I'm selling immediately. You know.
Right.
So like that's to me that's the best way. If the losses go anywhere past 10, past like 1%, I sell. If the gains get anywhere past 10%, I sell. So you'll never be locked into one position. You can move on to the next position really quick. Yeah, you're not going to make that much within a week or a month, but if you keep doing that and following that rule and sticking to that as your religious code, you will make a lot of fucking money. The problem is people don't have the discipline for that. It's because, like you said,
at that point you're like a day trader, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But I say this, like, there's obviously, I did what you're talking about before, gambling. I was a huge gambler with the options market. I love options gambling because it's fun to me.
I would not fuck with options. That sounds way dangerous.
To me, it's fun because, like, I know there's ways to modulate your risk. There's different, like, it's like, to me,
Sure.
the options market is like a casino. There's some games like blackjack. There's games like poker. There's games like roulette. Yeah. There's different games. There's ways to, you could get different types of spreads. Basically, like, you know, options go two ways, calls and puts. You could arrange because they're arranged by amounts, like the strike prices and the dates at which they expire. So you could create like spreads. So you don't just have to like bet it goes one way. You could like, not only do I make it bet go one way, but I could also bet at a limit to go this way. So it'll sell when it's somewhere in between those points.
Yeah, that's a volatility like play.
It's a spread. They call it like credit spreads and put spreads and call puts. There's like different types of spreads. I just gotta
so you're betting if it goes outside or stays inside.
And these spreads are reflected in like the line graph patterns. You know.
Yeah.
There's like butterfly patterns. There's the iron wall. There's all sorts of.
Okay.
No, I mean, yeah. There's like weird lingo to it, but they just
like mahjong. But
it kind of is. This is why it's fun. It's fucking fun. I love it. It's just like a fun game, and yeah. I don't think it's. This is definitely a very inappropriate way to play. Like it's not even supposed to be used this way. The point of options is to secure your big existing stock positions. You know, like that's the point of it. They're like contracts made on and against your fucking your stock positions and possible stock positions.
Right.
The problem is these contracts themselves have value, and you don't even have to own stock to own these contracts. You could like execute on these contracts or sell the contracts themselves. So they have all these dimensions to it that are like clearly divorced from actually owning the stock, and like the value of that is so much more volatile. You know, there's so many more. It's like the margins are way crazier. So yeah, it's pretty fucking nuts. And and obviously, like for example, let's say you betting like $3,000 on 2 contracts is like whatever, you know, because they're 2 long dated contracts. They're expensive, yeah. And, you know, they're going to take a long time to expire, even if it doesn't hit your strike price. If it's like really looking bad, you could always like bail out of it for a loss. Or you could buy like $310 contracts, and like clearly those have a very, very short expiry date. So if they don't hit your strike price, like go down, like whether your strike price was that low or that high, you're not paying your fucking rent. You know, so it's like that's how crazy like the options thing is. The options game is. You could like modulate your risk in like all sorts of ways.
Right, but then you also modulate your reward.
Yeah, basically, greater the risk, greater the reward. Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
But it's a really fun game. So I got into it because I like to like, there's different, because it's such there's complex mechanisms to it. You don't have to use it as a gambling tactic. You could literally build machines that just like basically like every month it's like your rent is paid for you if you just. This is what rich people do, right? You buy. Let's say you own 100 shares of a SPY ETF, right? Okay. You could literally park that money in one call contract, and you could make like $300. Like, I'm pretty sure it's like you could just make like sitting on just one, like those 100 shares, cycling through contracts, selling contracts against your own shares. You can make like $300 like every month.
It's not pay your rent.
I know, but let's say you were like you had like over time invested into 1,000 shares of that, or like let's say you were already like a millionaire and you invested. Suddenly, it's like it multiplies. And
well,
like
I feel like if you're a millionaire, you just get dividends or like, you know.
Well, that's another example. So you would do both. You would get dividends off the shares you own, yeah, but you could also sell options contracts against your shares. So you not only make money off of your dividends, but you're also getting premiums from selling call contracts, for example, against your shares. And let's say you're like someone executes on your contracts and buys them off. So what? You could just rebuy the shares at a better price anyway, you know?
Okay.
That's how you make money off of like options. That's how you're supposed to use options. But apparently you could just buy like hundreds of, you could turn $200 into $2,000 like overnight. But at the same time, like you could just lose it all. Like,
Yeah, real quick.
yeah, it's fun. It's really exciting. I like it. I appreciate the game. I appreciate the market. I just wish I got into it sooner. But you know, like how soon? I look at the actual reality of it. Like guys like me weren't able to do things like this in the '90s. You know.
I mean, I remember in my lifetime, there's been stocks that I've definitely knew were gonna go up, but I didn't know enough about investing to be able to capitalize on them.
Yeah.
Like I remember.
Well, a big aspect was technology.
Yeah.
The fact that we all had access to smartphones and apps, and like when brokerages started like making their own apps.
Like I remember when I read about Qualcomm having like all the patents on the 4G modem.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, they're gonna make so much money. And I was like, if I invested in this, I would have, and I never did.
You know what? I think it's like for me, it was kind of like a lot of stars aligned for me at once. For example, right before COVID, when I first started like this my official job, I had to open up a business bank account.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I started getting paid through my business bank account. I started like, you know, saving a lot of money on taxes. That's the only reason why I did it. So I was a business owner on paper technically, and I had access to like business bank accounts. Once I did that, and I wanted to start trading. Very quickly, like when I learned like the different broker, I realized I also looked up my own bank had their own brokerage.
Yeah.
So I got an account with TD Ameritrade because I already had TD Bank, and I learned very quickly how much easier they like approve you for like brokerage accounts.
Hey,
and
once
like
you have a business,
yeah.
Easy,
I was like, holy shit! Like the doors just magically opened to me, and I was like, that was neat, that's nice. But another big thing I noticed, and like, was the troglodytes, you know, like the fucking like the dysgenic fucking Robinhood users. Like they just they download. No, I mean I have utmost respect for a lot of Robinhood ballers because some of them became like literal millionaires overnight just through Robinhood.
Yeah.
So I have like a lot of respect for that. But like that did introduce like a lot of degenerates into the stock market, like insane amount of like new booty. You know, like you had like all sorts of people.
That reminds me of another thing I've been thinking about. Okay, because especially with all this like GameStop, Robinhood meme stock, right? Like I think part of the problem is that, you know, if you become overly successful with these means, like you're just going to keep looking into those means for more success, right? Like you're going to build your skill set around degenerate gambling, I guess, or just investing.
I mean, that's why I stopped.
Like
that's why I stopped like trading. You know, because like to me, trading was only exciting because of COVID. COVID is what made the game like crazy to me. It's always a global event. That's what makes your proper entry.
Right, but I'm saying like, you know, I feel like that's kind of the trap. Like, yeah, you make a lot of money, but then like all your productivity just goes towards trying to get that money in the same way again.
Well, the
like,
idea
you're never
is,
gonna like realize value.
But during COVID, the thing was it didn't take that much effort. You literally just like, all right, I just park money here, and then I wake up, it's like, holy shit, I made like 300% like profit. Like what the fuck?
But I'm saying like, you know, some people might just still expect that sort of thing and just keep looking for it.
Well, now, I mean, no one expects that now because now reality hit in for a lot of new traders, and like a lot of them lost their rent money for a couple of months, you know?
Yeah, so then that's what I'm saying. Either like, you know, you lose it and then you're like, fuck, I can't do this anymore and I gotta move on.
Which is most people, which did happen.
Yeah, in which case, like, what was the point of making it in the first place? Right? Or
you made what you made and you walked away.
But like, but I'm saying, I feel like it takes a very specific kind of person to be like, oh, I made a lot of easy money, I'm gonna walk away now.
Okay, so what I did is like, I didn't walk away as in like I swear this off because I fucked up so badly I'm never gonna do. No, I look at it just as it.
No, but I'm saying walk away before you fuck up so badly.
No, I'm just saying,
That's
like,
the hard part.
I looked at it as like just changing your tactics. You know, if the strategy overall is using the stock market to make money, then your tactics have to change with like conditions. For example,
That's true.
COVID created a specific condition where any asshole could come in and make a lot of fucking money for like a good long time. But then after that was over, your game, your tactics had to change. So now,
But hold on, how do you know how fast to change them, right?
you just, all right, first of all, like, you just wake up one day and once your positions start bleeding money, you're like, all right, this isn't good. This is like the 10th week in a row we've had red. Something's got to change. So that's when, and it's easy. It's not hard to change your strategy. Like,
Yeah, but you don't know if it's temporary or not.
what do you mean?
I guess you'd look at fundamentals, right?
Well, I mean, all right, for example, like high risk trades only work when they actually pay off. When they stop paying off,
Yeah.
then you got to do lower risk trades. And to me, lower risk trades, like if we're in a position where we have to make quote unquote lower risk trades, then I don't want to make trades. And what I would rather do is set something up where I could just look at it like once a week and just make a few clicks, make my little bit of profit, do the same thing
Yeah.
next week and next week and next week. That's a different.
That's
that's a
true,
different.
because
That's,
then you're putting too much effort into like
exactly. That's a
not
different.
lot.
See, I'm saying like I know how to change my style. Like if after let's say post COVID, everything's like much more stable again, and we're having like bear days or bear seasons again, you know, which sucks, but whatever, it's reality. You go through that, then you go into like, you know, making milking money off of the theta off the contracts, farming theta. So what that means is
What does that mean? Yeah.
so you could cycle through like different both ends of both styles of contracts, puts and calls, like every expiry date, which is bi-weekly or monthly. So what you do is like you basically make money off the margins from having your contracts executed, your and getting your 100 shares back, and selling a call against them in the subsequent. And when that gets executed, you're basically like you're making money off of a stock that modulates, like that's very stable and there's not much action going on. Then you could just like cycle through a put and a call cycle. So it's like selling and rebuying 100 shares in that stable cycle.
So you're basically like playing with volatility.
You're spinning a wheel.
So you're saying like it's not going to go up and down, but because it's going to have noise, I can make money off the noise.
Well, that's because nothing's going to stay completely flat.
Yeah.
It's gonna. So you're basically making money off of this relative stability, right? And you're not going to make much off of like big trades, but every time that passes by, you're making a small amount of premiums.
Assuming you're within the volatility bounds.
Yeah. So what happens? Say it completely violates your volatility bound. You could the way you have it set up, since they're already backed by shares. The worst that'll happen is like let's say you own 100 shares and you sold someone a call against it. So if it goes up a certain price and passes it, they get to buy it off of you at this price, and then you lose your 100 shares.
Yeah.
But all that happens is you still get the premiums. All that happens is you get the premiums and you get the shares at this price. So it's still higher than you bought it anyway. Because you set it, you get to set the strike price for the contracts you sell against your shares. So let's say they execute it.
You make the same little money you would have gotten had it been volatile.
Yeah,
And just bounce around.
and on top of that, not only do you make money off the sale, but you get money off the premiums from the contracts that gets executed. Because you make money from selling contracts against your shares, right? So like let's say you hold that, right? You hold the profit, the little bit of profit, and you hold the premiums, right? And let's say the shares go down again, then you say, okay, now that it's down again and below the price when I first got it, then I'll rebuy the 100 shares and do the same thing over again. But instead of buying the shares, what you could do is now I'm going to buy a put contract, or I'm going to sell a put contract. Since I have the money to buy 100 at this price, I'm going to sell a contract against it. So I don't even have to buy the shares back. It's like if it stays low, then I'll never buy it and I'll just make money off the premiums for the contracts. But if it goes high, then I'll buy. Even if it's here, then or even if it's like lower, then I'll have to buy it at that price anyway.
Yeah. So you basically stop loss.
But either way, like you're cycling through, because the idea is you get premiums in the cycle. Like you're making a little bit of gains and whatever on the selling and the buying process, but the premiums are the constant. The premiums are like through cycling through the contracts. Whether you buy or sell the shares in those phases, you still make money from selling the contracts.
So how much money do you make?
Well, it depends on the stock, because like different stocks
but I'm
have.
saying like percentage wise, like.
Well, it depends on the stock, and it's not by percentage; it's by points. So, like, let's say
Points are a percentage, no? They're just a different way of saying percentage.
they calculate it like this. Like, let's say for a certain stock, like you get $1.50 on the per contract, but each contract represents 100 shares. So you multiply $1.50 by 100, so that's $150.
Yeah.
So the premiums on that will be $150. You're
Right.
basically getting $1.50 premiums per share. And since the contracts are grouped in groups of 100 shares, it's times 100 on the premiums. Sometimes the premiums are like $32.50, $32.50. You know.
Okay, so you make $1.50, $150, but how much do you have? Like, how much money are you putting in?
Well, the idea is you have to have enough money to buy at least 100 shares at a certain
But I'm
price.
saying, how much would that cost in your estimation?
Depends on
Or
the shares.
experience?
Like depends on the stock. Depends on the stock of what you're.
But I'm saying for like an average stock that returns $1.50.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're gonna need a good chunk of change for this
how
to be worth it.
much is a good chunk?
You're like, for example, like let's say you're doing this to like a $15 to $30 stock. You're only going to get like $30 a month in groups of 100 shares. But if you could
so
also
that's like 1%, right?
But about something like. But I think it expands. It depends. There's like different periods of huge volatility. The value of the contracts get bloated too. So you could also.
Sure, but I'm saying but if you're making like 1% or like 2%, right? You can just invest in like CDs or like high interest savings accounts at that point.
You're right. You know what?
You don't have to like do a whole thing.
You're right. This is what I'm saying. You shouldn't. You'll never outperform SPY. Like for example, like as you could be a phenomenal trader.
No, it could be done. I don't know if you like. Again, anyone can do it. Not everyone will do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like let's say for example, you could beat SPY within like a month. Compared to what SPY does in a year, if you just get really lucky and you say I stop trading. But what I'm saying is like you get a person and SPY saying the person says I'm not going to stop trading for the year, and SPY says I'm not going to stop trading for the year. You try to compete against SPY for that year.
Yeah, you're
going to lose.
Yeah, I could see that in the long run. Yeah,
because
you need like consistent stocks. Not big shit.
Yeah, you're gonna fucking lose. So the idea is you're right. You got to know when to fucking stop. You got to know. Well, you got to know when you've won, and you got to stop.
But that's the hardest part.
But that's why a good thing to is look at SPY. It's like how good does SPY do in the year? If you beat that, stop.
But you could be leaving money on the table.
What?
But you could be leaving money on the table.
Nah, because that's like the meme. It's like the guy who stops digging right.
Literally though.
Nah, but you know what? Like either way, it's like what I appreciate is the stock market is diverse enough for you to be able to play all sorts of games like that. You have access to like high risk gambling, and you have access to like really secure, consistent residual income. Which
I would say at least the nice thing about this kind of gambling is the house is not guaranteed to win.
Yeah. I mean,
right? Like you can actually come out ahead.
In theory, you have better odds in the stock market than the casino. Yes,
I would think so. Well, especially if you know what you're doing.
Yes, yeah, you do have better odds in a stock market than the casino. That's another reason why it makes it fun. Because I saw people legitimately win. Yeah, I saw people lose. Plenty of people lose. But I legitimately saw people start out with like $4,000 and walk away with like $400,000, and their lives changed for the better. They're like, you have no idea how much.
Well, hold on though. Okay, but like. Because that's something else I think about. Okay, let's say you get this one-time lump sum win. What are you gonna do with that?
No. When I saw it, it wasn't one time. It was like this. It was this high adrenaline. Like they would win 100,000, lose 80,000, win 60,000, lose 20,000, suddenly win 100. Like it was like I would watch.
Okay, fine. Well, let's say they walk away with 400K. What are they gonna do with it?
Retire for four years.
No.
What would you do with $400,000 in a lump sum win?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Well, right off the bat, first of all, if you have enough to buy like
maybe like a down payment on a place or something.
If you have enough to buy like 100 shares of fucking, I'm pretty sure that nets you like what? Like I don't think it is like $300 a month. I think like with 100 shares of SPY, that'll net you about like $1,300 a month or something like that. 12 to 13.
But how much would it cost?
No, in premiums. SPY's at like it'll cost you about $40,000, $50,000 to get residuals of $1,300 to $1,200 a month.
Okay, that's worthwhile.
It is, right? I don't think I'm crazy for that.
No,
like,
that's
it's rent. That's literally you could.
That's like 5. No, what's percentage is that? Put 15K, you get $1,300 1,500 back.
The only downside is you'd have to actually manage the contract wheel. You'd have to manage. You'd have to.
That's like a. Wait, no. 5, 1, 2, 2, 1. Fuck. It'd be 2.6 on 100. That'd be like. Right? No, 50, 100.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure SPY's at like 450, 470 per share. So 100 of that would be like 40,000, like 47,000 or something.
Right. So if you get 1,000 back on 50, right?
It might be more than that. Hold on.
That'd be 2% per month. That's pretty good. That's very good.
Yeah, right?
Well, I mean, fuck. No, is it? I don't remember anymore.
Wait, hold on. First of all, let me check the price of SPY.
Well, no. Like 2% compounded monthly is a lot. 2% yearly, not that much.
But you also have to manage the actual. Oh shit! Never mind. It's at $500, $507 a share.
Okay, but you think
That's like 50 grand. You'd have to have 50 grand to buy 100 shares of SPY, and that'll
Right.
probably net you about a good like 1,500, maybe 1,600 per contract a month. Like if you
that's
cycle,
a lot, right?
I gotta check the options count, but yeah, it was definitely more than 1,000 per monthly contract. Yeah.
No, but like a month. Okay, multiply that by 12. Right? If you get 1,500 a month times 12.
I'm just thinking about in terms of expenses. Like if that
No,
would
that's a lot. You can like.
that would cover my fucking rent, dude.
No, I'm saying you're making like 40% return a year. That's like kind of insane.
But you need like that much money to buy 100 shares in the first place.
No, but I'm saying, okay, 1,500 a month times 12, right? That's like 20K-ish, 18K per year on 50K. That's like really good.
It's just
That's like stupid good.
It's just theoretically your money's at, because like your money's at risk. But my thing is with SPY in specific, the only way SPY is going to fail is if America fails. Like SPY is
I know, but I don't believe you get like 1,500 a month. Like that's a lot.
You know
for
what?
50K.
We'll check the options tree. We'll check the options tree. We'll see how much the calendar spread.
Like that is
because
ridiculous.
for example, like there's different amounts. Like let's say your expiration date on the contract you sell is like 2 weeks out. It's going to be less than it would have been for like 4 weeks out. You know, because the longer the expiration date, the more expensive the contract.
But I'm
just saying by monthly. You're right. By the 4 week spread, it should be a little more than $1,000. Like more like
that's too much in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because okay, if it's $1,000 and you put in 50K, that means you're making 12K on 50K. Your return is like 24% per year. Yeah, it's a ridiculous return.
But you're providing a service.
Still.
You're still providing a service though.
Yeah, but like anyone can provide that service. It's not like a specialized service.
But if you need 100, you need 100 shares. You need to be able to own 100 shares of SPY.
A lot of people own 100 shares of SPY.
I don't.
No, but I'm saying like
I would love to own 100 shares of SPY.
No, but that's way too much money for that service.
So then why don't you, this is why a lot of people fucking do this.
I don't.
This is why. All right, so imagine you didn't have $50,000. Imagine you had $300,000. Then what would?
I'm saying that's way too much.
I'm saying what would that spread look like at that point?
Then you're making $6K a month off of 3. Like if this was true, you like literally don't have to work once you have 300K.
But
and like
that's what I just said. This is what rich people do.
But 300K is too little to not work. Like 10 mil, you could maybe live off of investments.
But this is what
300K. That's like way too good.
But like this is what I just said. Like I said, like you don't need that much to not. If you know how to play like options, like you could like literally just live off.
But then how do you not have 300K right now?
Because I don't have the money to fucking buy 100 shares of SPY.
But you should get this money like real quick. If all you do is reinvest and you have a salary, like you'd make it really fast. It'd take you like 4 years.
Maybe I should just explain this to my dad and be like, "Listen, Dad, it's time I schooled you on the options market."
Actually, fuck that. Take a loan. Take like any sort of like any sort of loan.
I can't get $50,000 in a lump sum in a loan. 50,000? That's like a lot of money.
But you don't have to get a loan for that thing. You could get a loan on something else, right? Like literally, like get a loan on a car and then sell it, right? And then just don't pay off the loan, like type shit.
Or get like a college. No, you're not gonna get 50K
okay, you
off
can't
of
really buy a car.
No, dude, 50K is a lot of fucking money, dude.
But I'm just saying, like
50K is a lot of money.
If you could get those kinds of returns, that is.
But 50K, the thing is, 50K is
absolutely ridiculous.
But 50K is a lot of money to get. That's to sit at the table. You know, that's to sit at that specific table.
But your returns are, dude, like fucking get your friends together and like just pool money, and your returns will be so high that like it doesn't even matter. Like,
but you don't think this is what hedge
24%?
How do you think hedge funds work, dude? Why do you think SPY is so popular?
SPY is like 8% a year.
And you know what? Here's the deal. Like, you're talking about an asshole like me doing this. You think like rich guys don't have like automated fucking systems doing just like on the dime?
Rich guys, like, again, 300. If you can make like 4K a month on 300K, like that's too little money for like too much.
I think you're going through a kind of awakening right now.
No, I just don't believe you.
I gotta show you the options tree.
I just don't believe you.
We gotta look at the options tree. We gotta see what the spread is looking like.
Like, it's probably gonna be like 10 times off.
I don't think so. Because the last time I checked for per monthly, like I said, if you had enough money to buy 100 shares of SPY, you don't have to work. You could pay your rent off that. I remember saying this for the longest time for a reason. I was like, but then it was like, why don't you do that? I was like, I don't have like 30, 40, $50,000 lying around. Do you? I mean, if you did, give it to me. I could do this for you, but like, I don't have that. Like, if I had 50 grand, then probably I could. You know what? You know what's fucked up? Like 6 months ago, it was like 400. It was 42 grand. Now it's like 50 grand. It's like, it's just, SPY's just only going up. You know, before it's like,
but I still don't understand how you can make like $1,000 off it a month.
Because you're providing a service.
Too much.
But you don't understand that is a service. People are reserving.
But then, like, what's the risk?
You're the one that owns the shares already. You don't have to risk that much. You don't have to risk anything.
Well, then that makes no sense.
What do you mean?
Because then, like, everyone just do this. Like, your economy would go through the fucking roof if everyone had access to making this kind of money just by having money. That's too ridiculous.
But they do this.
Not at that level.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't 20% a year. That is like you're going to basically become a millionaire in 10 years if you have a job by doing this.
I'm trying to think of ways this could go bad. There was something wrong. Maybe there was no. I think there was like the worst that could happen when it comes to the wheel strategy is that maybe like, for example, like let's say you get priced out and your contract gets executed. You don't lose anything, but you lose your shares and you're just waiting for it to like, you're waiting for the cycle, but it just keeps going down. But that's not going to happen with SPY because it's SPY. It's like, this is why people park their fucking money there. This is why it keeps fucking going up. This is why it was like.
Okay. After this, if you want, we could go over the actual math. But
yeah,
I'm just very skeptical.
You're
telling me you got like infinite money glitch right now. Like,
it's not an infinite. You have to do the work. It's still just because it doesn't seem like that much work to you. It's still work. You know.
Okay.
I think so anyway.
For 20% a year.
And don't forget, it's taxable income.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Still, it's kind of ridiculous.
I mean, you're getting taxed at least like if you don't have your own corp, you're getting taxed at least 30% of your own
Still.
You're like infinite money glitch. I could just leave this and keep this running. You remember you have to log in at least like once a week. Just like make sure.
Well, you can't make a bot for this.
What?
You can't make a bot for this?
No, I downloaded software called TD Thinkorswim. TD Ameritrade has their own software called Thinkorswim. It's directly connected with their own monitoring system and your own portfolio. So if you have your brokerage account with them, they give you a software that comes with it and be able to. I just go to the website and just do my simple trades there. But I could pull up Thinkorswim for you.
That's fine. We'll look at it.
Yeah. Anyway, we're at the time, so yeah, we'll look at some cool stock shit. Thanks for joining us.
This is not financial advice. I don't believe it, but like do your own research, guys.
Yeah. Anyway.